A newborn baby has about 300 bones. An adult has 206. That's almost 100 bones that disappear during childhood. Where do they go? The answer reveals something remarkable about how human bodies develop and why babies are built so differently from adults. Today we're going to explore why babies need extra bones, what happens to them as children grow, and what this process tells us about human evolution and development. Let me start with the basics. Babies don't actually lose bones. The bones fuse together. A baby is born with many small bones that gradually merge into larger, single bones as the child grows. By the time you reach adulthood, what started as 300 separate pieces has become 206 connected bones. This happens because baby bones are not fully hardened. Many are made of cartilage, the same flexible tissue in your ears and nose. Over time, this cartilage turns into hard bone through a process called ossification. As bones harden, many of them also fuse together. The skull is the clearest example. A baby's skull is not one solid piece. It's made of multiple separate bones with soft gaps between them, called fontanelles. You can feel these soft spots on a baby's head. The largest is on top, where several skull bones meet. These soft spots serve a critical purpose. Birth would be impossible if babies had solid skulls. The human brain is enormous compared to other animals. The birth canal is relatively narrow. Something has to give. The solution is a skull that can compress and flex during birth. As the baby moves through the birth canal, the skull bones overlap slightly. The head becomes temporarily narrower and longer. This is why many newborns have cone-shaped heads immediately after birth. Within days, the skull bones move back into position and the head becomes round again. After birth, those skull bones gradually fuse. The soft spots slowly close as bone grows to fill the gaps. The process takes time. The largest soft spot typically closes between 12 and 18 months. The skull is not fully fused until a child is about 2 years old. But the skull is not the only place where bone fusion happens. The pelvis starts as 3 separate bones: the ilium, ischium, and pubis. During childhood, these bones fuse into a single pelvic bone. The fusion is usually complete by the late teenage years. The spine tells a similar story. Babies have more vertebrae than adults. Some vertebrae at the bottom of the spine fuse together to form the sacrum and coccyx. What starts as separate bones becomes a solid structure by adulthood. Even long bones like the femur in your thigh are multiple pieces in babies. Each long bone has a shaft in the middle and separate end pieces called epiphyses. These end pieces are where growth happens. Cartilage between the shaft and ends allows the bone to lengthen as the child grows. During puberty and into the early 20s, these end pieces fuse to the shaft. Once fusion is complete, the bone stops growing longer. This is why people stop getting taller in their late teens or early 20s. The bones have finished fusing. You can actually track bone fusion to estimate age. Forensic scientists use this. If they find skeletal remains, they can tell approximately how old the person was by checking which bones have fused. Unfused bones indicate a child or teenager. Fully fused bones indicate an adult. The timing of fusion is relatively predictable. Certain bones fuse at certain ages. The process follows a sequence that's similar across all humans. Environmental factors like nutrition can affect the timing slightly, but the order stays the same. So why do babies need so many bones in the first place? The answer is flexibility and growth. A baby's body needs to be flexible for birth. It needs to be able to grow rapidly during childhood. And it needs to develop properly as organs and muscles mature. Flexibility during birth is crucial. Human babies have the largest heads relative to body size of any mammal. Our big brains created an evolutionary problem. How do you get a large head through a narrow birth canal? The solution is a skull that can deform temporarily without damage. Other mammals have this problem too, but not to the same degree. Their babies have smaller heads. Their birth canals are wider relative to baby size. Human evolution pushed brain size to the limit of what birth can handle. The flexible baby skull is how we manage this compromise. Rapid growth is another reason for separate bones. Children grow fast, especially in the first few years. Long bones need to lengthen. The skull needs to expand to accommodate a growing brain. If bones were fused solid, growth would be limited. The growth plates between bone sections allow elongation. Cartilage cells divide and create new tissue. This tissue gradually hardens into bone. The process repeats over and over, making the bone longer. When growth is complete, the plates fuse and the bone becomes a single solid piece. Proper development requires bones to be separate initially. The skull needs to grow in proportion to the brain. If the skull bones fuse too early, brain growth would be restricted. This condition, called craniosynostosis, is a medical problem that requires surgery to correct. The body carefully regulates bone fusion timing. Hormones control the process. Growth hormone promotes bone lengthening. Sex hormones at puberty eventually signal the growth plates to close. The system is sophisticated and usually works correctly. Sometimes fusion happens too early or too late. Early fusion can limit growth or cause deformities. Late fusion can make bones weak and prone to injury. Doctors monitor children's bone development to catch these problems. The difference between baby and adult bones is not just about number. Baby bones are also softer and more flexible. They bend rather than break. This protects babies and toddlers who fall constantly while learning to walk. Adult bones are harder but more brittle. They're stronger under normal conditions but break more easily from impacts. As bones harden and fuse, they become more efficient for adult activities. Running, jumping, and lifting require rigid bones that don't flex. Babies don't need this rigidity. They need protection from the frequent falls that come with learning motor skills. The entire process of bone fusion takes about 25 years. Some bones in the chest and pelvis don't fully fuse until the mid-20s. This extended development period is unique to humans. We take longer to mature than any other animal. This long development period relates to our large brains and complex behaviors. We need years to learn language, culture, and skills. Our bodies stay flexible and adaptable during this learning period. Full skeletal maturity happens around the same time we finish brain development and reach full adult capacity. Here's something interesting. Bones can tell us about human evolution. The flexible baby skull and the difficult birth process are relatively new in evolutionary terms. Early human ancestors had smaller brains and easier births. As brain size increased over millions of years, the birth process became more difficult. The solution was not to make the birth canal wider. Wider hips make walking less efficient. Humans are the best long-distance walkers on Earth. Making hips wider would compromise that ability. Instead, evolution made baby skulls more flexible and made human babies more helpless at birth compared to other animals. This is why human babies can't walk at birth, while many other mammals can. Deer, horses, and elephants can stand and walk within hours of birth. Human babies take about a year. We're born less developed because we have to be born earlier to fit through the birth canal. The trade-off for big brains is helpless infants. The 300 bones of a newborn are part of this evolutionary compromise. They allow a large brain to fit through a narrow pelvis. They allow rapid growth during the first years of life. And they gradually consolidate into a strong adult skeleton suited for our specific needs. Understanding bone fusion also helps parents. Those soft spots on a baby's head are normal and important. They need to stay open for brain growth. Gently touching them won't hurt the baby. The skull is protecting the brain even though it feels soft. The soft spots also serve a medical purpose. Doctors can check them to assess health. A sunken soft spot can indicate dehydration. A bulging soft spot can indicate increased pressure in the skull. These signs help diagnose problems early. Bone development is one marker of overall health. Children who are malnourished show delayed bone fusion. Children with certain genetic conditions show abnormal fusion patterns. Monitoring bone development is part of routine pediatric care. So where do the extra 100 bones go? They don't go anywhere. They merge together. The baby's 300 bones become the adult's 206 bones through a carefully timed process of fusion and hardening. Every human goes through this transformation. It's one of the many remarkable changes that happen as we grow from helpless infants to capable adults. The next time you see a baby, remember that underneath their soft skin is a flexible skeleton specifically designed for growth and development. Those bones will fuse and harden over the next 2 decades, creating the rigid framework that supports adult life. The process is invisible but essential, turning a fragile infant into a strong adult through the patient work of biology. If this explanation of where baby bones go made you appreciate the complexity of human development, hit that like button and subscribe. We're exploring the remarkable processes that transform infants into adults and the evolutionary solutions that made humans possible. Ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation into the hidden changes happening in growing bodies. Drop a comment if you have young children and have felt those soft spots on their heads. You are feeling evolution and development in action.